On the night of her wedding, Lisa sat alone in bed, stunned, as her new husband Eric ran out the door without even bothering to put on his clothes. Moments earlier, his nephew had pounded on the door, yelling that Victoria, Eric's widowed sister-in-law, had fallen down the stairs and was bleeding. Just like that, Lisa was abandoned on what was supposed to be the happiest night of her life. But what made her freeze wasn't the rejection. It was the realization that this exact moment had already happened before. She had come back to life reborn on her wedding night. In her previous life, she had fallen hopelessly in love with Eric. He was tall, charming, and carried himself like a hero. She had begged for years just to be his wife, and when he finally agreed, he made it clear there would be conditions. She would have to care for his sick parents, his widowed sister-in-law Victoria, and Victoria's young son, Lucas. Blinded by love, Lisa had said yes to everything. Victoria was the kind of woman who collapsed at the mere sight of a broom. Eric's parents were frail and constantly medicated, unable to contribute to the household. Lisa had poured her entire dowry into that home meat and grain coupons cloth, even over 100 yuan, only to realize it was a bottomless pit. While Victoria and Lucas dressed well and ate like royalty, Lisa went hungry, wore rags, and collapsed from exhaustion. Even during her pregnancy, she worked without rest, waddling around with a heavy belly, scrubbing and cooking day and night. Because Lisa stayed behind as the dutiful wife, Eric was able to focus on his military career. Within a year, he was promoted and decorated. And what did he do with his new power and status? He brought Victoria and Lucas to live with him on the army base, leaving his legal wife behind to care for his dying parents. When they finally passed away, Lisa was already in her 50s, broken in both body and spirit. She thought the suffering was finally over. She thought she could finally go to Eric and start a new chapter. But just as she finished packing, Victoria and Lucas came to talk. The fragile widow had become a polished socialite, dressed in luxury and radiating superiority. "Now that your in-laws are gone, what are you planning to do?" Victoria asked coldly. "Of course I'm going to find Eric," Lisa answered. Victoria sneered. "Look at yourself. Do you really think you're in any shape to go see him?" And then came the bombshell. "Let me be honest with you, Eric has been with me all these years. Everyone believes I'm his wife." Lisa froze. What are you saying?" "I was forced to marry his brother. But Eric and I have always been in love. He married you just to shut people up and look respectable." Victoria then showed Lisa photos and videos Eric and Victoria sipping tea, strolling through the park, whispering and laughing like lovers. Birthday gifts, cinema dates, stolen glances. Everything Lisa had ever wanted, Victoria had lived. It all made sense. Eric's coldness. His absence. The way he didn't even blink when Lisa miscarried after Victoria shoved her into a river. Every time he came home, the first person he visited was Victoria. Most of his salary went to her and Lucas. He gave them everything and Lisa nothing. To him, she had never been a wife. Just a shield. A maid with a title. The truth struck so hard she vomited blood and collapsed. But now, reborn with a second chance, Lisa swore she would never again be their servant or caregiver. If heaven had given her a new life, she would live it for herself. She would leave Eric behind and carve out a path they could never follow. What she didn't expect was that Eric and Victoria had also been reborn. Just like before, Eric never returned that wedding night. In her last life, their honeymoon never happened. Had spent the whole time nursing Victoria back to health like a doting husband. When the honeymoon ended, Lisa was still a virgin. Even after 2 years of marriage, Eric never touched her. It wasn't because he was never home. He was. But every time they tried to be intimate, Victoria would stir up some kind of chaos just enough to ruin the moment. In her past life, it was always the same. Either Victoria got sick or her son did, and every single time, without fail, Eric would abandon Lisa to run to them, acting like it was some sacred duty. Back then, she had been hopelessly naive. She never noticed how filthy the relationship between those two really was. Even though she thought Eric cared too much about Victoria, she always found excuses for him. After all, wasn't it admirable for a man to take responsibility for a widowed sister-in-law and her child? Lisa convinced herself his devotion was just a sign of his good morals. When she finally managed to sleep with him and got pregnant, she believed they were finally becoming a real couple. But then Victoria pushed her into the river and she lost the baby. Victoria, of course, feigned distress so convincingly she ended up bedridden. When Eric found out, he rushed back, but not to her. Not even a full glance for his wife. No, he dedicated all his care and tenderness to the traumatized Victoria. If it hadn't been for Victoria's own confession just before Lisa had gone to see Eric, she might have lived her entire life in delusion, still thinking those two were decent people. In her past life, Lisa was deceived for over 40 years. But not in this one. This time, she knew the truth from the start. And she had no intention of being the sacrificial lamb ever again. Since she already knew how this game ended, she might as well have a little fun and play along for a while. Let's see how long Victoria and her son can live like royalty when Lisa refuses to serve. Let's see how far Eric climbs without the woman he thought would blindly support him. She blew out the red wedding candles, laid down fully dressed, and slowly drifted off to sleep. By morning, the sound of the door jolted her awake. Eric stormed into the room, his face tight with urgency. He didn't even acknowledge her presence in bed. Instead, he marched straight to her dowry chest and started rummaging through it like a man possessed. Minutes passed as he tore through its contents, increasingly frustrated, until he finally froze and turned to her with a tense expression. "Where are the meat vouchers, the fabric, the food stamps, and the money that was in this chest?" In her previous life, Lisa had been so desperate to marry him and help his struggling family that she had begged her parents to give everything they could: food and meat coupons, fabric, and cold, hard cash. She had arrived at his home smiling, proudly offering her dowry like it was proof of her love. "Don't worry," she'd told him. "I'll take care of your family." And the very next morning, after he'd spent the entire night doting on Victoria, he had walked in, opened her chest, and without a word, taken all her meat coupons to buy ribs for Victoria. But that was the old Lisa. In this life, she had hidden the valuable parts of her dowry the night before. As Eric interrogated her, she met his eyes coldly and replied, "Did you put your own meat coupons in my chest? Because I have no idea what you're talking about." His face twitched with a mix of embarrassment and irritation. "No, not mine. I'm talking about what came with your dowry." "And why exactly should I give you anything for my dowry?" she snapped, her tone icy. "You've been married to me for one day, and you're already trying to take what's mine? Isn't that a bit much?" Eric stared at her, confused. "Didn't you promise that if we got married, you'd take care of my family?" "I wasn't thinking clearly back then," she replied flatly. "But I am now. And I regret it." Then came the blow that stopped him cold. "Eric, I don't want to be married to you anymore. Since we haven't consummated the marriage, let's just get divorced." Eric's eyes flew wide open. "Lisa, are you out of your mind? How can you say something like that?" She couldn't blame him for being stunned. In her past life, she had been a complete pushover, fawning over him for decades, happy just to be near him. He probably thought she was just upset he hadn't come home on their wedding night. Desperately, he began to explain. "It was an emergency. I didn't want to leave you, but Victoria fainted. I had to take her to the hospital and stayed overnight to look after her." The moment he finished explaining, he switched to his usual lecture mode. "We're married now. Husband and wife. I told you, from the start, marrying me means taking care of Victoria and Lucas. Something happened to them last night, and you just slept through it like nothing? That's heartless." In her past life, Lisa had swallowed those words whole. She'd chased after him, fretting like a fool over Victoria's so-called fall. Later, she learned Victoria had faked the whole thing just to ruin their wedding night. And Eric, blinded by his obsession, believed every word. But now that she knew the truth, why should she pretend? She let out a cold laugh. "How convenient, isn't it? She just happened to fall on our wedding night." Not the day before. Not after. Just that night. Eric frowned. What are you trying to say? Nothing, she replied coolly. It just seems awfully convenient, don't you think? Noticing her tone, Eric softened his voice. I saw she was weak after the fall, and thought I'd use your meat coupons to buy ribs, help her recover. Since we're being open, why don't you go buy them yourself? And there it was, the real reason for his sudden sweetness. First the pressure, then the sugar. Classic manipulation. Lisa couldn't help but laugh out loud. Eric looked puzzled. What's so funny? She stopped laughing and stared him straight in the eye. She's your sister-in-law. If you want to get along with her, go ahead. Just leave me out of it. Aren't we partners? Didn't you promise? Back then, I didn't know how much you loved your sister-in-law. She cut him off. With everything going on in your family, it's clear I'm not the right wife for you. Let's end this now while we still can. She turned away, her voice calm but firm. I'll pack my things and go back to my parents' house this afternoon. Her unwavering decision to divorce left Eric reeling. He stared at her, speechless, then stormed out, slamming the door behind him in frustration. But unlike last time, he didn't take her dowry. And he didn't go buy ribs for Victoria. Because Victoria didn't get her precious meat dish, she came storming in like a volcano. Just as Lisa was finishing packing, the door slammed open, and there she stood, furious, breath heavy, but not limping. Her body was perfectly fine, healthy even. Lisa turned and gave her a slow, sarcastic smile. Victoria slammed the door shut behind her. Lisa, what the hell is wrong with you? She snapped, trying to sound calm but seething underneath. Why are you making this huge scene and suddenly talking about divorce? Let me warn you, this house isn't something you can play with. You better back off before things get ugly. All the rage Lisa had buried in her last life, the betrayal, the manipulation, the cruelty that pushed her to the brink, boiled to the surface. She locked eyes with the woman who had destroyed her and didn't hold back. And who the hell do you think you are to question my divorce? She spat, her voice sharp and steady. What right do you have to get involved? Walk back out the door you just kicked in and stay out of my business. Victoria's face contorted, shocked. She hadn't expected resistance, certainly not from Lisa. She raised her voice, screeching now. You're the one who begged to marry Eric. And now you're bailing on the second day? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Lisa smirked. Ashamed? You must be joking. If anyone should be ashamed, it's you. Didn't you claim you hurt your leg? Her eyes flicked down. Looks perfectly fine to me. Victoria flinched, realizing her mistake. She'd been so focused on making a scene that she forgot to keep limping. Lisa didn't give her a chance to recover. You spend your life scheming, faking injuries to guilt people into giving you what you want. If you're hungry, go earn your own meat. Stop leeching off others. You're pathetic. Victoria's face flushed red with humiliation and rage. The mask was off now. She glared at Lisa with venom. You promised to care for this family when you married Eric. Sharing your vouchers is the least you can do. I'm weak, it's normal. Lisa let out a bitter laugh. Normal? When I made that promise, I didn't realize Eric was so obsessed with his sister-in-law. Had I known he'd leave me alone on our wedding night to care for you, I'd have been insane to marry him. Not even the dumbest woman on earth would sign up for the circus. In her past life, Lisa had bent over backward to be liked by this family, terrified of Victoria badmouthing her to Eric. Now, she had nothing to lose. Every word came out sharp and deliberate. Victoria blinked, stunned. You've lost your mind. Lisa nodded calmly. Think whatever you want. But I'm divorcing Eric, and I'm done with your dysfunctional family. Without breaking eye contact, she pulled down their wedding photo from the wall, grabbed a pair of scissors, and sliced Eric's half clean off. His smiling face, dressed in full uniform, fell into the trash. Victoria's arrogance cracked. She realized this wasn't a tantrum. Lisa was serious. You're really going through with this? She asked, uncertain. What do you think? Lisa replied, gesturing to her packed bags. Victoria watched in disbelief as Lisa cut the photo without flinching, then continued folding her clothes methodically. Finally, Victoria spoke again, her tone subdued. About last night, I didn't mean to ruin your wedding night. I passed out. It just happened. Lisa didn't even look up. Whatever your issues are, they're not mine. Save your excuses. She continued packing, not sparing a glance. Pushed to the edge, Victoria snapped. Her voice turned sharp and venomous. Don't flatter yourself, Lisa. I didn't want to talk to you. Eric begged me to come. If it were up to me, I wouldn't waste a single word. Just don't get too full of yourself. Keep pushing, and you'll be the one humiliated in the end. Lisa froze for half a second. Eric sent her? That was strange. In her past life, he had stood behind Victoria no matter what, even after she'd pushed Lisa into the river and caused their child's death. He never held her accountable, not even once. And now he was sending her to apologize? What was going on? Was the sky about to fall upward too? Lisa scoffed. There was no way Eric suddenly cared about her. He was just scared he'd lose the only woman willing to slave away for his family without complaint. He knew no one else would put up with it. But his fear meant nothing to her now. All that mattered was leaving this house behind. In her previous life, she had worked herself to the bone for them and still couldn't spare a dime or a moment for her own parents. Never again. This time, her parents came first. She zipped her last bag and headed for the door only to find Eric blocking her way. Lisa, what are you doing? He panted. I said I'm sorry. I even asked Victoria to talk to you. Why are you still being so unreasonable? And then he saw the wedding photo, torn in half, his uniformed image lying in the trash. His expression changed instantly. You tore up our wedding photo? In 3 frantic steps, he lunged toward the bin and picked up the scraps with shaking hands. Lisa raised an eyebrow. Did he actually care about the photo? That was rich. She'd begged him 1,000 times to take it, dragged him to the studio. He hadn't smiled once, and she had paid for the entire thing herself. Remembering it made her laugh, cold and low. I paid for that photo. I tore it up because I wanted to. What's it to you? Something snapped. Eric spun around, eyes red with fury. Lisa, don't you dare walk out that door. Oh, I'm daring, she whispered, grabbing her bag. Just as she stepped past the threshold, Eric grabbed her arm hard and yanked her back inside. The yank was so forceful Lisa nearly lost her balance. Anger shot through her like a flash fire. Let go of me, she screamed. I want to go home. This is your home, Eric shouted back. And I'm warning you, Lisa, you are my wife. This isn't some game. This is a military marriage. It's protected by law. You can't leave without my consent. A military marriage, of course. Legally, she couldn't walk away without his approval. That was how she ended up trapped. Rage simmered inside her, a fire that couldn't rise or fall, just burned in her throat, choking her. Fine. If he wouldn't let her go, then she'd do nothing. Let's see how long he could stomach having a wife who did nothing, who sat there like useless furniture. From that moment on, Lisa stopped fighting. She ignored Eric, ignored his family, didn't lift a finger around the house, didn't cook, clean, or even pretend to care. She wasn't born to be anyone's maid. Naturally, all the household burdens fell on Victoria. And Victoria, of course, put on her usual act, limping dramatically, dragging herself through chores like a martyr. She cooked, she did laundry, she even worked the fields. All for show. Lisa knew exactly what she was doing, trying to gain Eric's sympathy. It was the same performance from her previous life. Whenever Eric visited, Victoria became Superwoman, making it seem like she carried the entire household on her back. But the second he left, she'd collapse into bed, feign illness, and dump everything on Lisa. Lisa used to believe it. She used to fall for all of it. Not anymore. Now, if Victoria wanted to put on a show, Lisa would be the audience with snacks. As expected, Victoria's performance began to pay off. Eric's mother started scolding Lisa for being lazy, praising Victoria like she was some kind of saint. Lisa didn't even blink. She kept watching the circus with detached amusement. Then, Right on cue, Victoria fainted while carrying water. The entire family panicked. Erick rushed over, outraged that his precious Victoria was exhausted. That night, he came to confront Lisa. "Lisa, don't you think you're taking this too far?" he scolded. "You're doing nothing while my sister-in-law is still injured." Lisa rolled her eyes. "What if I hadn't married you? No one in your house would eat or wear clean clothes?" Erick was speechless. Lisa let out a cold laugh. "It's been 2 days since our wedding and your sister-in-law's already fainted twice. Always with the dramatics. Is she made of glass?" Erick blinked, then muttered, "It's just coincidence. She's been doing everything herself. She's exhausted. And what's that got to do with me?" Lisa snapped. "She cooks for herself and her son. She washes her own clothes. She works to support her own kid. That's her job." Erick stared at her in disbelief. "But Lisa, you weren't like this. You used to be kind, caring." "I wanted to be," she replied, her voice firm. "I wanted to be good. And look where that got me. Used, trampled on, manipulated until it killed me." She looked him dead in the eye. "Erick, I'm not building a life with you. Don't try to guilt me with this military marriage nonsense. End it peacefully. I'm not going to be your family's slave." His hands trembled. "Why, Lisa? Why are you like this now?" "No reason," she said coldly. "Call me a fake. Call me a hypocrite. Whatever helps you sleep." Then suddenly, Erick grabbed her hand. His eyes softened, voice trembling with emotion. "Lisa, this isn't you. I know it isn't. You have a kind heart. You've always been patient, selfless. Please, I swear, I'll make you happy. Just trust me." Lisa almost laughed. Sweet words were cheap. Promises were cheap. In her past life, Erick had barely spoken to her, let alone tried to make her happy. Now he was spewing affection like he actually cared. She saw through him. He didn't love her. He never had. He only loved Victoria. This sugar-coated act was just bait. He wanted her to go back to being the quiet, self-sacrificing doormat. Without hesitation, she yanked her hand away. "Say whatever you want. It doesn't change anything. I'm not taking care of your fragile sister-in-law. I'm not babysitting your precious nephew. I'm not your servant. I don't care. We're getting divorced. Go find someone else stupid enough to fall for you, because I'm done." For a moment, his face twisted with pain. And honestly, she couldn't tell what exactly hurt him. Then, without warning, he pulled her into his chest. "Lisa, last night was my mistake," he whispered. "I owe you a wedding night. Let me make it up to you tonight. Let's consummate our marriage. Right now." Before she could react, he scooped her into his arms. Panic froze her. "What are you doing?"
"Put me down."
"Erick, you've lost your mind." She kicked, squirmed, fought, but his grip was iron. Within seconds, he'd thrown her onto the bed and leaned down to kiss her. That had never happened. Not in this life. Not even in the last one. Yes, they had slept together before, but it was cold, mechanical, joyless. Just a duty. No warmth. No affection.
No desire.
And now he wanted to kiss her? Had he lost it completely? She shoved his face with both hands, her voice sharp and shaking with fury. "Get away from me. I don't want anything to do with you." But Erick didn't see her fear. Didn't see her rage. He kept leaning in, voice low and syrupy. "Lisa, I'll take care of you, I swear. Don't be afraid. We'll have a baby tonight, okay? I'll protect you and our child forever." She struggled with all her strength, but it was like punching a wall. He didn't care. He tore off her coat as she screamed, bit, scratched. Nothing stopped him. Then, just as despair was setting in, a desperate voice pierced through the air. "Uncle! Uncle, come quick. It's Mom. Something's wrong with her." Lucas.
Crying.
Screaming. Lisa felt a flicker of hope. "Erick, go check on your sister-in-law," she shouted. But he didn't move. He gripped her tighter, whispering through clenched teeth. "No. Not tonight. Not even God is stopping me from consummating this marriage." He'd lost his mind. In the last life, He would have dropped everything at the slightest whimper from Victoria.
And now?
Now he wouldn't budge, and now he ignored her? What had changed in him so completely? Lisa didn't understand, but one thing was clear: this wasn't what she wanted.
Eric.
Have you forgotten your brother? She screamed. You promised to take care of Victoria. Don't be ungrateful. As she yelled, Lucas's cries grew more desperate. He banged on the door with both fists, screaming, Uncle, please. This time it's real. She's bleeding. A lot. Help us. His sobs were so gut-wrenching they woke Erick's parents and drew the attention of the neighbors. Erick had no choice. Finally, he let go of her, threw on his clothes, and rushed out. Lisa quickly got dressed and followed, more out of curiosity than concern. When she reached the courtyard, she saw Victoria lying motionless on the ground, face covered in blood. Lucas clung to her side, sobbing, Mom, wake up, please. Lisa glanced at the slippery, icy spot where Victoria had fallen and couldn't help but smile. Well deserved. Victoria had taken a hard fall. Her head was split open, blood gushing, unconscious. She was rushed to the hospital. Erick, of course, tried to drag Lisa along. She refused without hesitation. As the neighbors followed behind him in panic, Lisa looked once more at the ice-slicked entrance, yawned, and returned to her room. She locked the door, laid on the bed, and couldn't stop laughing. Tonight had been perfect. Karma? Not entirely. She'd given karma a little push. She knew Victoria would press her ear to the wall. Knew she'd do anything to pull Erick away. The hatred she carried from her past life didn't just fade. It festered. She despised both of them. So before bed, she'd poured several buckets of water outside their door. In the dead of winter, it froze instantly, creating a perfect ice trap. Victoria had been so obsessed with sabotaging Lisa's night that she never noticed the danger beneath her feet. She walked right into it. Yes, it was planned. Every bit of it. It was her punishment. Lisa had waited calmly, watching it all unfold like a private performance. The only thing she hadn't foreseen was Erick trying to force himself on her. In the end, she almost felt grateful to Victoria because if that fall hadn't happened, she didn't even want to imagine what might have gone down. That night, Lisa slept like a baby. No guilt. No shame.
Peace.
Erick returned the next morning, looking drained. Lisa, my sister-in-law's in bad shape. They stitched her up 15 stitches. And her nose is broken too. Lisa felt an indescribable thrill inside, but on the outside, she remained calm. That's awful, she said flatly. Terrible luck. But why was she at our door so late? Around 10, wasn't it? That's not exactly strolling hour. Erick's face twisted. After a pause, he snapped, Lisa, it doesn't matter why she was there. What matters is the hospital bill. I don't have enough. Can you lend me some money? Of course, she said sweetly. His eyes lit up until she added, on one condition. You sign the divorce papers. Right now. His expression turned to stone. I'm not divorcing you, Lisa. Don't even think about it. Then I can't help you, she replied with a shrug. He stared at her silently for a long moment and then walked out without saying a word. Erick refused to grant the divorce. Instead, he went door to door, borrowing, begging, doing whatever it took to pay for Victoria's surgery. Their already poor household sank further into ruin after the hospital expenses. Meals were reduced to rice water and pickled vegetables, nothing more. Living like this was pure torture. Eventually, even Erick's usually silent mother couldn't stand it. She came to talk. Lisa, you see how things are, she said gently. We're a family, shouldn't treat each other like strangers. You can't just sit around while we all suffer. We need a solution. Lucas hasn't eaten anything solid in 2 days. Just water. He can't grow up healthy like this.
Ah.
There it was. Not concern for Lisa, not unity. Just the dowry. In her past life, this woman had watched Lisa break her back for the family and never once offered a kind word. She happily accepted Lisa's care but never defended her. Her heart had room only for her own children, her cherished daughter-in-law Victoria, and that spoiled little grandson Lucas. She had known how hard Lisa worked, how exhausted she was, but whenever Erick visited, she kept silent, pretending Victoria did everything. She and Victoria had drained Lisa dry. They devoured her dowry to keep the family afloat. And Lisa, like a fool, endured it all. What did she get in return? Nothing. Not even gratitude. To them, it was only fair. She loved their son, so she owed them everything. Like it was natural. Lisa had been married for 2 years and couldn't conceive. The old woman gossiped behind her back, saying Lisa was barren. When she finally got pregnant, Victoria pushed her into the river, and the baby died. And the old woman? She blamed Lisa. Said it was her fault for having bad luck, for not protecting her child. Forced Lisa to keep working through the miscarriage until she was permanently ill. In her previous life, Lisa destroyed herself chasing something called love.
She owned that now.
She'd made her bed. But she died once and she wasn't dying again. Not for anyone. She looked at the woman with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. And what solution am I supposed to provide? She asked coldly. Is everyone else in this house dead? And now I'm the one who has to fix everything. The woman's face turned ugly. Lisa, I'm your mother-in-law. I'm an elder. How dare you speak to me like that? Once I divorce your son, you'll be nothing to me. So don't throw around titles. If you feel bad, go tell him to sign the divorce papers. That would help a lot. Lisa had no patience left for this heartless old hag. The woman began shaking with rage. You're the one who begged to marry Erick. And now you want a divorce? Yeah, I had brain damage. But I'm cured now. And let me be clear, I'm not giving you a single cent. I'm not cleaning up this mess. Need help? Ask your darling Victoria. Or your precious son Erick. Leave me out of it. Realizing she was getting nowhere, the woman's tone suddenly changed. For the first time in her life, she tried to negotiate. Lisa, don't be like this. Let's think carefully. Just lend us the money for now, and once Victoria recovers, I promise we'll find her a husband and move her out. Lisa froze. What did she just hear? Victoria is still young, Erick's mother said calmly, and your brother's been dead for years. We can't expect her to stay tied down forever. Erick told Mayhay plans to find her a good man to marry, someone she can depend on. Marry off Victoria? That never happened in Lisa's previous life. Stunned, Lisa asked without thinking, and Lucas? What happens to him? Lucas is family, of course he'll stay. You and Erick will adopt him. Raise him as your own. Lisa could hardly believe her ears. In her last life, she gave everything to Lucas. She raised him like he was her own child. And how did he repay her? By helping his mother sneak around with Erick. 9 out of 10 of their secret meetings had been arranged by Lucas. When she'd finally confronted Erick, Lucas was already grown, married with children. He and Victoria ambushed her in the countryside to mock and humiliate her. When she collapsed from rage and coughed up blood, she was still alive. It was Lucas cold, ruthless, who covered her mouth and nose and suffocated her to death. And now they wanted her to raise the very boy who had murdered her? What kind of twisted joke was this? Lisa looked into the old woman's hopeful face and answered without flinching, I don't raise other people's children. Find some other fool. Her flat refusal enraged the woman. What more do you want, Lisa? We're offering a huge concession and you're still not satisfied? Let me tell you, if it weren't for Erick, I'd never let Victoria go. She was born into this family, and she'll stay with us, even as a ghost. Marrying off Victoria was Erick's idea? Why would he do that to the woman he loved? Was he under a spell? Or was there something he didn't want anyone to know? Lisa didn't understand what game he was playing, but something about it reeked. One thing she did know: this life would not be a repeat of the last. She was going to divorce Erick, no matter the cost. She ignored his mother completely and used the first chance she got to return to her parents' house. The moment she saw them, it felt like she'd crossed lifetimes just to reach their embrace. She threw herself into their arms and cried like a child. They held her tightly, not letting go for a second. Of course, they asked about her married life. And she didn't hide a thing. She told them everything, every humiliation, every burden, every twisted injustice she'd endured with Erick's family. Her parents had always been against the marriage. They never thought Erick was a good match. Yes, he'd been promoted to battalion commander, but what was that worth when his family was drowning in poverty? Sickly parents, a widowed sister-in-law, a young nephew, a household of leeches. Her parents had suffered watching her suffer. But Lisa had been stubborn. She declared she'd marry Erick or no one at all. She even threatened to stop eating if they didn't give her their blessing. Broken-hearted, they relented. They gave her all their savings to prepare a proper dowry. They never imagined she'd be back just days after the wedding, full of regret. But she didn't lie to them. Dad, Mom, I regret it. I don't want to waste my life serving Erick's entire family. I want a divorce. They were stunned. Divorce wasn't a small matter. Lisa, are you sure? They asked. You know what people will say. They'll gossip. I know, she said firmly, no hesitation in her voice. But after the divorce, I won't stay here. I'll go south, find a job, start over. And once I'm settled, I'll come back for you both. Her parents hesitated. They didn't say yes. They just said they'd think it over. What Lisa didn't expect was for Erick to show up at their door, asking to take her back. He was supposed to be at the hospital, glued to Victoria's side. So what was he doing here? In her previous life, Erick had never once come to her parent house. Not when they were poor. Not even after they got rich.
Seeing him there now didn't sit right.
And yet there he stood, calling her parents Mom and Dad in the most respectful tone. So humble. So unlike the cold, lifeless man she remembered from the life before. Her kind-hearted parents, seeing his humility, didn't push him away. In the end, Lisa had no choice but to return with him. But she was in no mood to pretend. She walked back with a dark expression, keeping a good 8 meters between them. Erick kept glancing back, slowing his pace, trying to talk with more patience than usual. She said nothing. Ignored every word. Lisa, what's wrong? He finally asked. Without missing a beat, she said, Erick, I regret marrying you. I don't want to stay with you. Please leave me alone. If you do, I'll give you all the meat and grain vouchers for my dowry. Even the money. Let's go file the divorce right now. Erick stared at her, stunned. It was the 3rd time she'd asked for a divorce since the wedding. He always thought it was just anger, just a tantrum because he left her alone on their wedding night. But now, seeing her cold face, the unwavering look in her eyes, hearing her offer to give up her dowry, finally understood. Lisa wasn't acting out.
She really wanted this. But why?
In the past, she'd loved him. She gave him everything. She was generous, obedient, never argued, never raised her voice, not to him, not to his family. Why did she seem like a completely different person now? He remembered the last time he saw her in their previous life. He had just received another promotion. But when he returned home, he was hit with the news Lisa was dead. He couldn't believe it. He rushed back home and found her in a coffin, still lifeless. Victoria and Lucas told him Lisa had fallen sick from overwork and passed away suddenly. He held her hands, now calloused and cold. A wave of guilt crushed him. He knew deep down she was the reason he got as far as he did. She cared for his parents, supported him without complaint, gave him the freedom to focus on his career. He had always planned to repay her one day, to make it up to her, to live a peaceful life with her once everything settled. But fate didn't give him the chance. At her funeral, he stood crying, his chest hollow with regret. And in his heart, he swore, if heaven gave me another chance, I'd treat her better. I'd make her happy. I'd never let her suffer again. And then was reborn. Right before their wedding, Erick was overjoyed to have a second chancito make things right, to give Lisa the life she deserved. But Lisa wasn't the same woman anymore. In his past life, she had been completely devoted to him, clinging to the idea of marrying him like it was her only salvation. Now, in this life, all she wanted was to get away. Why would the same person make such different choices? Was it because she, too, had been reborn? Eric didn't know, but he was resolute who would not let her go. He had been given a second life to make amends, to give her happiness. Letting her leave now? Impossible. Lisa, on the other hand, couldn't understand why Eric refused the divorce. He had never loved her. Their marriage happened only because she'd begged him for it. So now that she wanted out, shouldn't he be thrilled? Why was he holding on? Why was he trying to keep her? Confused and annoyed, she returned to the house they shared. When she opened the door, she stopped short. The place was a mess. Her belongings were scattered everywhere, tossed around like someone had been searching for something. Someone had broken in. But the house was protected by a courtyard wall. This wasn't a stranger, it had to be someone inside. Eric's parents and Lucas, his precious nephew, heard the commotion and came to see. Lisa folded her arms and stood in the doorway, staring at them with cold amusement. "Call the police," she said flatly. Eric turned, stunned. But before he could speak, his mother snapped. "The police? For what? Nothing's missing." Lisa narrowed her eyes. "How would you know? My dowry is here. Are you sure nothing's missing?" She looked each of them dead in the eyes. "You're lying." "Nothing's missing," Lucas shouted, his little face twisted in fury.
Lisa laughed.
"Oh, and how would you know? Were you the one who stole it?" His face turned crimson. In a childish burst of rage, he screamed, "You evil woman! You made my mom fall, and now you're hoarding the money. What are you up to?" Lisa stared him down, her voice like ice. "Why should I give you anything? Who do you think you are?" Lucas growled, "You married my uncle to serve our family. If you're not going to give us money or work, then get out. We don't need you here." Lisa turned to Eric with a sweet smile. His expression darkened with fury. "That's enough," he barked. "Why can't I say it?" Lucas fired back. "Grandma and Grandpa said she married us to be a maid. Mom said once she moved in, we'd eat meat, wear new clothes, and never work again. But all we've had is rice water. She's a liar. Kick her out." Lisa's smile widened, cold and deadly. "So, your whole family sees me as a servant. Thanks for the reminder." She laughed, genuinely amused, as Eric turned pale with embarrassment, his eyes darting between his parents and his nephew. "Unbelievable," he muttered. His parents quickly dragged Lucas out of the room. Lisa folded her arms again, still watching him. "Let's be clear. I'm not this family's maid. If you want to keep pretending we have a future, go find someone else to fool. Let's divorce now, and end this on decent terms." "I won't divorce you," Eric insisted. "My parents are confused. Don't hold it against them. I swear I'll treat you better." Lisa scoffed. "Treat me better? You can't even afford to feed your own parents, your widowed sister-in-law, and your leech of a nephew. What makes you think you can offer me anything?" Eric fell silent. After a long pause, he finally said, "Lisa, my parents are sick. I can't abandon them. But I can stop taking care of Victoria. I'll separate from them." Lisa raised an eyebrow. That couldn't have been easy for him to say. But could Eric really cut off Victoria? Not a chance. He was lying. He still wanted to keep her around. The next morning, Lucas came to find her. That little brat glared at her with seething hatred. "Lisa, my mom wants to see you at the hospital." "Victoria? Why would she want to see her?" Lisa refused. Lucas left sulking, but a few hours later, he returned. "She has something important to tell you." Victoria had been in the hospital for days. Lisa hadn't expected the fall to be that bad. Given how broke the family was, it seemed unlikely they'd waste money keeping her there this long unless it was serious. Curious what Victoria was scheming, Lisa finally agreed. But nothing prepared her for what she saw. There, lying on the bed, was a woman barely recognizable. Her face was a wreck. Her nose was gone, the entire bridge flattened, leaving a grotesque gap between her eyes. For a moment, Lisa thought she'd entered the wrong room. But then that rasping voice said, "Lisa, Come in. Lisa blinked. This monster was Victoria? Slowly, a malicious smile crept across Lisa's face. She shut the door behind her and walked in. You wanted to see me? Victoria's eyes burned with hate. Are you happy to see me like this? Lisa answered with faux innocence. Of course not. I'm so sorry to see you this way. I truly hope you recover soon. Her words were syrupy, but inside, she was dancing.
Karma.
Oh, sweet karma. In her past life, Victoria had strutted around like a queen, making Lisa's life miserable. Now look at her deformed, miserable, broken. How must Erick feel now? Still madly in love? Still obsessed with his face? This is all your fault. Victoria suddenly shrieked. You poured that water. You knew I'd come for you that night. You wanted me dead, didn't you? Lisa blinked. So Victoria had figured it out. But of course, she wouldn't admit a thing. I don't know what you're talking about, she said innocently. What water? Still playing dumb? You treacherous woman. You're evil. Victoria pointed a shaking finger at her. If she could have stood up, Lisa had no doubt she would have lunged. Lisa stepped back slightly. But then, Victoria's voice dropped to a rasp. Lisa, you came back too, didn't you? Lisa's heart stopped. How did she know? Could it be had Victoria also been reborn? Or was she bluffing, fishing for reaction? Lisa couldn't be sure. She immediately shook her head. I don't know what you're talking about. Victoria's gaze narrowed. You've changed. You're not the same Lisa. I can tell. The old Lisa was clingy and shameless, Victoria hissed.
But now?
You're completely different. You want to divorce Erick. I don't need you to admit, I know you came back. And let me tell you something. I did too. The hospital room was empty. There was no one around. Victoria's face twisted in hatred. I know you resent what Erick and I did to you in the last life. We lied. We deceived you. I admit it were wrong. But now that we've both come back, let's just start over. Step aside and let Erick and me be together. Chapter 14. She spoke with absolute confidence, her voice full of certainty that Erick would be hers. It was clear Victoria had been reborn just like Lisa. And this time, her desire for Erick was stronger than ever. She didn't want to sneak around anymore. She wanted him out in the open, without shame. In her mind, they were meant to be, and Lisa was just in the way. Lisa smiled coldly. And what exactly do you want me to do to make that happen? You're trying to divorce Erick, aren't you? Then go ahead. Do it. It's not that easy, Lisa said flatly. Even if I want to, Erick won't agree. He's not rejecting you because he loves you, Victoria scoffed. He's keeping you around to control you. After all, you were so obedient in our past life. You sacrificed everything for this family. Erick just doesn't want to lose his free nanny. Lisa's jaw clenched. So that was it. That's why Erick refused the divorce. Not love utility. Seeing her words land, Victoria leaned in. Erick never even liked
you.
He always loved me. Remember? We both came back. In our past life, he always protected me. Even when I pushed you into the river and killed your baby, never blamed me. Want to know the real reason you never had kids? Victoria paused, smirking. It was Erick's idea. He didn't want you to bear his child. That's why he had me secretly give you medicine to block your fertility. Lisa stood frozen, nails digging into her palms so hard they almost drew blood. She stared at Victoria's mangled face with a blank expression. So, you dragged me here just to tell me how much Erick loves you? Exactly. And now that we're both back, let's not waste time. Step aside. Lisa's voice was cool and distant. Let me remind you, if you want to be with Erick so badly, you'll need to convince him to divorce me. I'll be waiting. She turned to leave, but Victoria called after her. Erick has status now. He can't divorce you easily. It would damage his reputation. There's only one way, Lisa. You have to be seen with another man. Once he catches you with someone else, the divorce becomes legal. Lisa slowly turned back, her gaze calm, almost amused. So, let me get this straight. You want me to destroy my own future just to make it easier for you to have him? It's the only way, Victoria said, lowering her voice. His reputation can't take a hit. But if you mess up, no one will blame him. How convenient, Lisa muttered. You get your happy ending, and I get to be the disgrace. Tell me, Victoria, why should I bear the consequences of your shameless love story? She laughed quietly. I'm not like you. I don't crawl in the dirt for men. Your suggestion is pathetic. She paused, letting silence hang between them before adding, but since you're so desperate to be with Eric, why don't you marry him now? Victoria's face darkened. Impossible. That would stain Eric's name. It could ruin his career. So you do know, Lisa said, nodding. You're perfectly aware that being with you would ruin him. So what do you want? For me to take the fall, while you both stay clean. She scoffed and turned on her heel, walking out of the hospital room without looking back. As she stepped into the hallway, she ran right into Eric. His face lit up the moment he saw her. Lisa? What are you doing here? Your dear sister-in-law asked to see me, she said with a smirk. Eric's expression shifted instantly. He grabbed her hand. What did she say to you? Ask her yourself, Lisa snapped, yanking her hand away and storming off. Chapter 15. Eric watched as she walked away, her cold rejection slicing through him like a knife. He had no idea what Victoria could have said to make Lisa look at him with such disdain. In their past life, after Lisa's death, Victoria had suggested they move in together. Eric had refused without hesitation. She even offered to let him adopt Lucas as his own. He'd refused that too. Thinking about the disgusting things Victoria had done after Lisa died made his stomach turn. Without a second thought, he rushed to Victoria's hospital room. The moment he entered, her face lit up in surprise. Eric, you came.
He didn't respond.
You've recovered quite a bit, haven't you? If there's nothing serious, it's time to go home. Victoria's smile faltered. My head still hurts, and my nose hasn't healed. You can't stay in the hospital forever, he said, expressionless. Go home and rest. Her heart dropped. In the past life, Eric had always been tender with her. He granted every wish, protected her fiercely. But now he was distant. Cold. Unrecognizable. And worst of all, he had suggested she get married. To someone else. Victoria's heart clenched. In her previous life, she had been obsessed with Eric to the point of madness. Now, knowing his future was full of promise, how could she let him go? When she realized she'd been reborn, her first instinct was to cling to Eric. She had to marry him. Had to make him hers legally, fully, forever. That was the only path. Lost in thought, she barely registered his question. Did my mother talk to you about anything?
About what?
About getting remarried. Eric's voice was calm. You're still young. You shouldn't live your life as a widow. Once you're better, you should marry someone you know well. Victoria gaped at him. I'm not marrying anyone. I'm not. Remarrying. Think about it, Eric said gently. Living alone will be hard. But you have me, she blurted. Eric shook his head slowly. I can help you, but not forever. I'm just your brother-in-law. It's not my duty to care for you for the rest of my life. The best thing for you is to find someone else to marry. Victoria froze. During her hospital stay, she had spent every waking moment daydreaming about marrying Eric, imagining a life of luxury, of power, of being the general's wife.
But now?
Everything was unraveling. She couldn't believe Eric was serious. This had to be a joke. But then Eric added calmly, if you don't want to remarry and prefer to keep waiting for my brother, that's fine. But I'll be separating you from the family. You and Lucas will live on your own. Victoria stared at him in disbelief. You want to separate from me? You're not joking? Chapter 16. Eric's expression remained cold and firm. We're two different families. Isn't it natural to live separately? He had wavered before. But after what he saw last night, his hesitation vanished. He hadn't expected his own parents to be so callous. Lucas just a boy, Barely 10 years old, where could he have learned to speak so cruelly? To say Lisa was a maid? That could only come from constant influence from his parents and Victoria. Eric saw it now.
His family didn't see Lisa as a wife.
They saw her as free labor, someone to exploit. They weren't grateful. They were greedy. He remembered how Lisa, in their past life, had slaved away in the fields, cooked, cleaned, cared for his dying parents all alone. Eric had once thought about bringing her to live with him, but his parents had refused. "We can't live without Lisa," they said. At the time, he believed it meant they were close to her, that they couldn't bear to part from her. But now he saw the truth. They just wanted to keep using her. With Victoria, it was different. His parents always spoke of how hard she had it, what a burden Lucas was, how tragic it was that her husband had died. And so, in the last life, Eric had brought Victoria and Lucas to live with him, leaving Lisa behind. His parents had always favored his brother. Eric had been the obedient son, the healthy one, the one who followed orders. When his brother died, he thought he owed his parents everything. He thought they finally loved him. But now he realized they didn't. Not truly. Their love had always belonged to the dead son, to his widow, to his child. Eric felt sick. Cold. Hollow. He was done. This family was finished. Chapter 17. The next day, Victoria was discharged from a hospital. Her face hidden under a scarf, she returned straight to Eric's house and locked herself in a private conversation with his mother. Lisa didn't know what was said behind closed doors. But for the next 2 days, something strange happened. Eric's parents, normally cold and judgmental, were suddenly warm and polite to her. Even Victoria and Lucas acted overly kind, their behavior almost sugary. That much sweetness always meant poison. Lisa didn't trust a single smile. On the third night, after dinner, Lucas offered to wash the dishes. Eric's mother then casually told Lisa she needed to run an errand to a nearby house and asked her to come along. The house belonged to a village woman Lisa barely knew. Her name was never even mentioned in past conversations. But now, apparently, Eric's mother had suddenly become friendly with her. Lisa remembered what Victoria had said back at the hospital, and everything clicked into place. She smiled coldly. "I'm not feeling well," she said. "You should go on your own." "It's not safe to go alone," Eric's mother insisted. "Come with me." "I really don't feel up to it," Lisa repeated. "Why not ask Victoria to go with you?" Victoria chimed in instantly. "I have something urgent at home." "Sister-in-law, you should go with Mom." Eric had been silent the whole time. But when Lisa refused again, he suddenly said, "Go with my mother. I'll come pick you up later." Lisa narrowed her eyes. So Eric was in on it too. They'd all coordinated this. That meant tonight was the night they planned to cross a line. Well then, let's see who wins. Lisa returned to her room, gathered a few things, and followed Eric's mother out. As they left the courtyard, she glanced back. Victoria stood in the doorway, her twisted smile barely hidden under her scarf. Lisa followed quietly to the other house. The village woman greeted them warmly, asked if they'd eaten, and even prepared hot tea and fried rice. In these lean times, fried rice was a luxury. Everything about the welcome was suspiciously perfect. Lisa sat down, smiling faintly. She could feel their eyes watching her. Their kindness was overplayed, too eager. The moment the rice was offered, she took the bowl and calmly blew on it. Under the watchful eyes of both women, she slowly drank the rice soup. When she finished, their satisfied smiles gave them away. She swayed slightly, then collapsed. As she fell, she caught a glimpse of the man walking in Angelo, the lame, drooling son of the village woman. Chapter 18. That night, the once quiet mountain village erupted into chaos. Shouts, screams, cries from women echoing through the hills. The neighbors woke in alarm, rushed toward the noise, and soon gathered at the woman's house. The courtyard overflowed with people. Inside, the flames from the hearth still crackled. And in the main room, under flickering shadows, a horrifying sight froze the crowd. the disabled son of the village woman fully naked on top of a woman. Everyone stared, horrified. Then they rushed forward to separate them. That was when they realized who the woman was. The one who had been drugged, stripped, and left unconscious beneath the man was none other than Victoria. Gasping, someone threw a coat over her and ran to inform Erick's family. Lisa didn't show up at the scene until moments later, just as Erick arrived and pushed through the crowd, panic rising in his chest. When Lisa arrived and saw Victoria lying unconscious on the floor, barely covered by a thin piece of cloth, she was stunned but made sure not to show it. Something didn't add up. Earlier, she had arranged everything so that Erick's mother and the disabled son of the village woman would be in that room. So, how had it ended with Victoria there instead? She glanced at Erick, whose face was dark with fury, his eyes locked on her with a sharpness that sent a chill down her spine. Around them, the villagers unaware of the deeper story were screaming, demanding justice, insisting that the disabled man had committed a horrific assault. Erick ignored the chaos. Calmly, he stepped forward, shut the door in front of the crowd, and turned to them with a straight face. "There's been a misunderstanding," he said. "My sister-in-law and Angelo are in love. They've already spoken about getting married. What you saw was simply a private matter between two consenting adults." And just like that, the crowd began to disperse, convinced by his calm authority. Lisa stood there, speechless. This wasn't what she had planned. Just days earlier, Victoria had promised to help her when Erick's heart, and now she was being used as a scapegoat? It didn't make sense. As she turned to leave, Erick grabbed her arm. Through clenched teeth, he accused her. "You did this." "Lisa, aren't you going to explain yourself?" "Explain what?" she replied coolly. "Didn't you already explain it all yourself?" Erick's voice broke with disbelief. "You knew what my mother and Victoria were planning? Why didn't you tell me? Do you know what could have happened if I hadn't gotten there in time?" Lisa pulled her hand free. "And what about what's happened to me all this time? Why is it okay for them to scheme against me, but I can't fight back?" Erick tried to defend his mother, saying she was confused, manipulated by Victoria. But Lisa wasn't having it. She wasn't confused. She knew exactly what she was doing. They all did. And I just gave them a taste of their own medicine. Erick admitted he had overheard the plot through the back window. When Victoria made her move on him, he knocked her unconscious and sent her to Angelo's house. "My parents were wrong," he said. "I'll make them apologize. Victoria will be out of this house. From now on, you'll have peace." But Lisa shook her head. They weren't manipulated. They just preferred Victoria, and always have. They wanted you two to grow old together. Erick looked at her, stunned. "How do you know that?" She didn't answer directly. "Can't you see how Victoria feels about you?" He looked away. "I can't be with her. I used to like her, but she loved my brother. Once she married him, those feelings died. I only looked after her because my parents asked. She's a widow, an orphan. I felt sorry for her." Lisa realized she had been wrong about Erick. She thought he and Victoria were deeply in love. But maybe that had never been true. Still, she was done with it all. "Let's get divorced," she said. "Let's file the papers tomorrow." Erick's voice trembled. "Lisa, I don't want to divorce you."
"But I do," she said.
"I've wanted to walk away for a long time. In my past life, I was your family servant. In this life, I want freedom. Whether you marry Victoria or someone else, I don't care. I just want to be far away from you. I never want to see you again." Erick stepped back in shock. You came back too?" Lisa nodded. He stood there, frozen. "I'm sorry, Lisa," he finally said. "I'm so sorry for what happened before. I came back to change it. I wanted to give you a better life." Hearing the regret in his voice, Lisa felt the hatred in her heart soften. She had resented Erick deeply, but now she saw he wasn't the villain she thought he was. It had been Victoria and Erick's parents all along. But even knowing that, it didn't change what she had suffered. Some wounds ran too deep. 3 days later, they finalized their divorce. A week after that, Lisa left the village with the travel money her parents had saved. She headed south, using her memories from her past life to rebuild everything from scratch. The journey was hard, full of challenges, tears, laughter, but she gave it her all, and it paid off. 10 years later, Lisa had built a successful business in the South. She brought her parents to live with her and found a man who truly loved her. They married and had children. Her new life was nothing like the one she had lived before. Then one day, she saw Eric again. It was at a conference. He was pushed in on a wheelchair and lost both his legs. She was startled. Their eyes met from across the room. After the event, he approached her and said, "Lisa, it's been so long." She nodded, her gaze falling on his missing legs. "I lost them saving someone else," he said softly. "You're incredible," she replied honestly. "Everything I have now," he said, "I worked for. I can't make it up to you, but I try to help others. I want my life to mean something." She nodded again, with nothing more to say. As she turned to go, he called after her. "Lisa, my parents and Victoria are gone. They died 2 years after you left." She froze. He went on. "Victoria married Angelo. It was a miserable life. He abused her. She hated my parents. One day, she came back and burned down their house." Lisa stood in silence. "May they rest in peace," she said. The words strange and hollow on her tongue, but still, she said them.